This is a Makkah after the birth of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. What was the condition of Makkah after the birth of our Prophet? To answer this question, we will look at 4 conditions of Makkah: religious, social, economic, and moral. Let's begin with the religious condition. There were 360 idols surrounding the Kaaba, each with a different name. People would come from all over to worship these idols, and they would also engage in pagan rituals and superstitions. At that time, there were only a handful of people known as the Hanifs who were searching for the true path. They were the ones who had a glimpse of the oneness of Allah, but they couldn't get rid of shirk completely. Among them were some great figures like Abraham's son Ismail, peace be upon him, as well as his descendants, who were called the children of Ismail. Also, there were other prophets like Hud, Salih, and Shuaib, peace be upon them, and their followers. But overall, the majority of the people were engaged in shirk and sin. What was the social condition of Makkah? The people were divided into many tribes, and there was constant fighting and conflict among them. The worst part was that women and orphans were severely oppressed. In fact, the tribe of Jurhum used to bury their daughters alive. Can you imagine such cruelty? Economically, Makkah was doing quite well. It was a major hub for trade, especially for the tribe of Quraysh. They would send caravans twice a year to Yemen and Syria to trade. They would return with valuable goods, and this made Makkah wealthy. The main source of wealth, however, came from the annual pilgrimage to Makkah. People would come from far and wide to perform Hajj, and they would bring with them valuable gifts and money. This too was mixed with shirk and ended up in the hands of the powerful. So overall, the economic situation of Makkah was good, but it was tainted by greed and injustice. Now let's look at the moral and cultural condition of Makkah. I'm afraid it wasn't very good. Alcohol was consumed openly, gambling was widespread, and the strong would often exploit the weak. But despite all this darkness, Allah Almighty had a plan. He chose the tribe of Quraysh and the city of Makkah to send his final prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And this was not by chance, but rather because Allah had prepared the way. Let me explain. First, he sent the Hanifs to guide the people, but they couldn't fully get rid of shirk. So Allah sent prophets like Hud, Salih, and Shuaib, peace be upon them, to warn the people. But they didn't accept the message, so Allah let their numbers dwindle. Then Allah raised the children of Ismail, who built the Kaaba and established the pilgrimage. But they too fell into shirk. So Allah sent prophets and messengers to guide them, but most of them didn't accept the message. Finally, the time came for the last and final prophet. Allah chose him to be born in Makkah. Even though Makkah was the birthplace of shirk, why did Allah choose Makkah? Because it was the busiest city in Arabia. It was the center of trade and culture. And every year thousands of people would gather there for the pilgrimage. So if Allah wanted to spread his message to all of humanity, Makkah was the best place to send his prophet. We have seen how Makkah was intellectually, socially, economically, and morally. Now let's sum up. Makkah was immersed in darkness, surrounded by idols and falsehood. The people were divided, corrupt, and sinful. But Allah, in his wisdom, chose Makkah to be the birthplace of his final prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. He chose Makkah because it was the heart of Arabia and because his prophet would be the mercy to all of humanity. In a moment we will discuss how the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was sent as mercy to all of humanity. But before that, remember, Allah chose Makkah for a specific reason. Why do you think Allah chose Makkah? Because Allah loves what is difficult. Just like he loved the hardship of Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him, when he was thrown into the fire with his son Ismail, peace be upon him. Allah loves those who are steadfast and patient. Therefore, the hardship of Makkah was a test for the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and he passed this test with flying colors. Stay tuned for more.